You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he'd drop the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Oh yeah, feel the music here, folks.
Too long. We got the strength. We got the fire. We got the love.
Welcome into Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham, and we have a fantastic podcast on tap today. First of all, this is The Strike. Now, why did I let that keep playing? Because today we're talking about the Warriors. First of all, though, we're going to talk about the NCAA March Madness National Championship. And madness it was. I had the great pleasure of actually attending the game, which I mentioned in the last podcast. I was heading out to catch a flight to go to Houston. Went down there. The games, well, obviously the Final Four games were not super incredible. They were incredible in the sense that they were badly historical, if that's even a phrase. But Villanova just destroys Oklahoma. I did not see that one coming. I actually thought Oklahoma would win that. But Villanova, if you look, I mean, we already know the outcome, right? They won the whole thing. So they were just running people the entire tournament, winning by double digits nearly every round, with the exception of North Carolina, of course, in the championship, which we'll get to. And Kansas, I think every other game was by double figures. And to beat Oklahoma by 40 plus in the semifinals, in the Final Four, are you kidding me? That was crazy. So the Final Four games, super incredible environment, but obviously not the most entertaining games in terms of, back and forth quality basketball. North Carolina Syracuse was pretty good for most of the game, but the game was in hand, with just a few minutes to go type of thing. But I want to tell you about my experience down there before we dive into just how incredible that game was. I mean, that championship game was the best championship game we've ever seen. But before I get into that, really funny story about getting into the semifinals in particular. So I did not have tickets. Tickets were like literally thousands of dollars online. There was no way I was going to pay thousands of dollars. And did not apply for the press pass for Simply the Best Sports Podcast. Definitely will be doing that next year, and I think we'll actually get it. We'll see. But so went down there, had to buy tickets. Tickets online were outrageous. I've had pretty good luck throughout my life just buying tickets on the streets, from scalpers. And so we get down there, and we find some great seats. They're on the sideline, about 30 rows up, which in a football stadium that's about where you want to be, just because it's so flat. A little bit down lower. So they were really fantastic seats. So we buy the tickets. We spent, it was me and a friend. We spent $300 each, obviously in cash. You're not swiping credit cards out there on the streets with these scalpers. So we pay in cash and we go to get in. And sure enough, the horror stories you hear about buying from scalpers comes true for us. The tickets would not scan. So they won't let us in the game. And, at this point, we're actually running a little bit late, and the Villanova-Oklahoma game has already tipped off. So we have to go to this, ticket resolution line, which is like super long. So clearly they were having quite a few issues with tickets. But so we go over to the ticket resolution line and get up to the window, and, the guy's like super nice. I'm trying to pull a catch me if you can type thing where I'm trying to, run interference and distract him, so he just gives us better tickets and we get on our way and, making jokes and whatnot. Doesn't work. He gets his manager involved, and we're told that the tickets have been reported stolen. So there we are with stolen tickets and no chance of getting into the games. And so they won't give us the tickets back even. They keep the tickets. They make a photocopy of them and write down the phone number of the police department, or no, not even the phone number. They put like HoustonPolice.org or something stupid like that on the paper. So we're supposed to apparently contact the police as if they're going to do anything to help us out, get into the game. So now we're just like, holy cow, I can't believe this. So my buddy, he decides he's going to go track down this scalper, and I decide to go wait in line at the actual ticket office where they were still selling tickets, and we were just going to, buy whatever cruddy seats were available and just, cut our losses and make sure we didn't let a couple $100 keep us from enjoying the Final Four. So I'm in line, and before I get to the front of the line, my friend calls me, and he's like, dude, I found him. And you can hear the guy in the background. He's super nervous, and there's cops there involved. And so I go running over there, and this guy's just scared to death that we're going to, come after him or get the cops involved or whatever. So he, to his credit, he's a super nice guy, like I do think he was doing something extremely shady, but nonetheless, he was extremely kind and helpful with us. So he comes back all the way through security, because I had like security before you even got to the gate where you could scan your ticket. So we get to the gate, and of course the tickets don't scan. He's got different tickets, that he's trying to get us in with. None of them scan. All of them are apparently reported stolen. So he's like, I'll get you guys in. Don't worry. I'll get you guys in. So he's scanning all these tickets, and none of them are working. And he's got so many of them that he's kind of confused the lady scanning. And he pulls one of them, out of her hand. He's like, okay, so this one worked. We're looking for one more. And she's like, yeah, that one worked. But it didn't. It definitely did not work. None of them worked. But he was doing his own catch me if you can, interference thing. I'm referring to the movie, by the way. But so he's now, what's the guy's name? Frank Abagnale Jr. He's now running interference, distracting this girl. And so she's now convinced that one of the tickets actually is valid, but it definitely was not. And but he can't find a second one, and he can't bamboozle her into thinking that a second one is valid. So now we're just kind of stuck. It's like, so I'm like, dude, I'm not going to get you busted by the cops. I'm not asking for my money back. I just want to go into the game. Like, I paid you for a ticket, get me into the game, or you can give me my money back. But I'm not really concerned about getting the cops involved unless neither of those things happens. Then we are, going to get the cops involved. So he goes out, hits up one of his scalper buddies, and says, "Dude, I need some tickets." So he gives him a couple tickets. I don't, they had a little private conversation. He comes back with two more tickets. So now we walk back through security again, where they, do the metal detector and stuff. And we get up near the gate, and six cops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cops approach us, and they stop us, and they, say they need to talk to us. And so they grab him in particular. They grab all of his tickets from him, and the cop says, okay, he talks now to the all the ticket scanners. He says, I need to know who the best ticket expert is among you. So one of them, kind of volunteers, and he takes him off to the side and makes sure that our scalper buddy is out of earshot and out of eyesight. And they go through all the tickets that this guy had, which was, I don't know, a dozen probably, some of which were for the championship game. Anyway, so he comes back and he's like, okay, none of these worked except for these two. So thank goodness there were two that were valid. And he gives those, and I actually grabbed them out of the, so he gives them to the scalper. The cop gives them to the scalper. I grab them out of the scalper's hand. I'm like, we're taking these. You deal with the rest of it on your own. And the cop's like, wait, you guys don't know each other? And I was like, no, we don't know each other. We just bought tickets off of him. So he pulls us aside and again tells the scalper to, stay back. And he's like, don't do business with this guy. He's a thief. He's a crook. He's a liar. These are stolen tickets. He's going to probably get away with it because it's impossible for us to prove that he's the one that stole them. But these are 100% stolen tickets that he's trying to make money off of. You're lucky that these two are valid, so go enjoy the game. So we go in. And now we're in different seats, and we paid $300 for sideline seats, but the seats that we end up getting were kind of more in the corner. They were still lower bowl and a good row, but they were not near the vantage point that you want. So we deal with that for the second half of the Oklahoma-Villanova game because it was such a blowout anyway. We didn't want to bother, trying to figure out where our original seats were. So we just deal with it. So after that game ends, we, and it was still good to see, still an amazing experience just to be in that stadium. I got to say this. I don't love the fact that they played in a football stadium. I think from a basketball standpoint, it's not good for the game, but the atmosphere being there and seeing these 4 sections of fans that are just totally fanatical about their team. There's the Syracuse section, there's the Villanova section, and then there was the North Carolina and the Oklahoma sections, and it was just so cool to see. And there's so much energy and so much noise and so much passion. It was really, really cool. That being said, there's a ton of bad seats. You're in a football stadium trying to watch a basketball game, and there's a ton of bad seats. There's a lot of people, paying good money, and they're watching it on the screen. I mean, if you look at the, that buzzer beater, which of course we're going to dive into more, but if you look at the buzzer beater, that wins the game, Jenkins hits that shot, and the playback of Charles Barkley's celebration, if you haven't seen that, go, Google it, YouTube it, Twitter it, whatever. Charles Barkley reaction to Chris Jenkins' shot. Barkley he's there for TNT, TBS, CBS, whatever, as a commentator, an analyst, and he has that good of a seat, supposedly, and he is turned watching the game on a monitor. He's not watching the game live. He's watching it on a monitor with his back to the court. So there's just so many bad seats. That's why we were willing to pay for the good ones. So anyway, we were lucky that even the secondary tickets that we got, they were still a good view, great entertainment, great fun. So now though the game ends, and now there's like a 40-minute break before the North Carolina Syracuse game is going to start, and we start walking over to the section that we knew our original tickets were in, and we see our scalper friend. He's now in the stadium somehow with this guy, he should be Frank Abagnale Jr. Somehow, some way, he talked his way out of any repercussions for being in possession of like a dozen stolen tickets. And not only that, but he has all of them with him still. They didn't even take them from him. So now he's in the game, gives us back the tickets that the ticket office wouldn't give back to us. Somehow he got those, gives them to us, and he's like, here you go, guys. You can go sit in your seats. So we go over there, and there's a young couple in our seats. So I'm just like, hey, guys, are these your actual seats, or did you just move down? Because a lot of we were near the Oklahoma section, and as you can imagine, after getting blown out by 40, a lot of them were leaving. So I'm like, are these your actual seats, or did you guys just move down? And they're like, no, these are our real seats. And I was like, oh, okay, well, they're ours too. I showed him the ticket, and he's like, yeah, it's kind of funny. He's like, our tickets were actually stolen from us, and so we got these replacement ones. And I'm like, oh. I was like, well, I'm not the guy that stole them, I promise, And so they're looking at me like, right. And I was like, no, I swear, like we bought these on the street, and we were actually told when we scanned them that they were stolen, but we just saw the guy in here who sold us the tickets, and he got us in. And so I'm just like, it was such a funny experience, So there, we ended up having a quick conversation with them, and sure enough, the whole row had their tickets stolen. I guess from the hotel room, somebody came in and grabbed a whole stack of them. So they had to report them stolen. They have these, kind of less quality, not super cool souvenir type tickets, like you're going to a movie or something like that. And so we end up, just kind of sitting nearby them. We were actually in the row we were just sat right behind them. Luckily, because Oklahoma fans left. So we had a fantastic view for the North Carolina-Syracuse game. It was awesome. But yeah, that's my story about getting into the Final Four game. So then, we get to championship day. Couldn't be more excited. Get there early. Walk through a ton of different, scalpers, trying to find the best, safest scenario. And we're telling all of them, like, you're walking to the gate with us, and then we'll believe that these are real. Not because we don't trust you, but just because we got burned 2 days ago right here in this very spot. And we're not going to go through that again. So nobody really seems to have the best tickets available for a decent price. And thank goodness, we stayed patient, because that's, little lesson for those of you that are ever going to go out and try and scalp tickets. You got to be patient, because the first person you see is probably not the person you're going to buy from. We walked around for probably 25, 30 minutes talking to a dozen plus different scalpers. And finally, we found a guy who had tickets in the exact section that we wanted. And it was lower bowl. We were in the section right next to Scottie Pippen. We were 2 sections away from Jordan, although he was 30 rows in front of us. But great seats. So we paid $350 for that one. So to see 3 games on the sideline within the first 30 rows or first 40 rows, we paid a total of $650. That's barely over $200 a game for the Final Four and championship games. It was incredible. So we get in there. Obviously, these tickets worked. It worked out great, and we're surrounded by mainly Carolina fans. But it was probably like 60-40 in favor of Carolina around us, with 40, obviously 40% being Villanova. So it was a really, really fun environment. And in case, you forgot from last time, I had $1,900 riding on this game if North Carolina could win. I didn't bet that much, but that was how much the pot was worth in the pool that I was involved in with some friends. And if all I needed was North Carolina to win, I was going to win first place, which was actually, so the pot was $1,900, first place was $1,330, second place $380, and then third place was like $190 or something. So I was at this point guaranteed, out of the 19 of us that participated, I was guaranteed to get first or second place. And obviously there's a massive dollar amount discrepancy between first and second, so I really, really wanted first. Plus, I've always kind of been a Carolina fan. I mean, I just wanted a good game more than anything, but I definitely wanted Carolina to win. I've been a Carolina fan. BYU's my first love, when it comes to college sports, but I've been a fan of North Carolina. I love Jordan. I grew up a Jordan fan. NC is just a cool school, so I've always kind of been a bit of a bandwagon type of Carolina fan. I guess not too much of a bandwagon just because I've always liked them, but I have no reason to other than I like Michael Jordan. Anyway, so the game's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That was one of the best championship games ever, even before that last second shot. Even before that shot, even before the Marcus Page circus shot, that was one of the best championship games ever played. It was the quality of basketball was so high. The back and forth was incredible to watch, and it was just a fun game, a great atmosphere, two amazing programs. These programs were, 2 of the top programs all year long. Both of them have good history. It was just so much fun. And then you get to that final, couple of minutes, and Carolina's down 10. And you just think, oh, there's just such a small sliver of a chance here. This is very unlikely, that Carolina's going to do this. And the impossible happens. They come storming back from down 10 in a matter of like 2 minutes. Marcus Page scored 8 points in the last 93 seconds. He hit that corner 3, which was super clutch. Then he drives in, gets his shot blocked, or he missed it. Yeah, he misses it. Gets his shot altered, misses it, gets his own offensive rebound, and somehow, amongst the trees, he was able to put it back. I still have no idea how he put that ball back because he was surrounded by guys significantly bigger than him, but he gets his offensive rebound, puts it back, and then and that pulled him within 1 point, but then there's the foul. Villanova hits both free throws, and then Page hits that circus double pump, scissor kick, incredible three-pointer from the wing to tie the game with 4.7 seconds left. And at that point, we all thought it was probably going to overtime, but it's March Madness. 4.7 seconds is a lot of time. And so there was this family right in front of us. They were Villanova fans. It was a dad and three of his kids. It was really cool. It looked maybe 2 of his kids and a friend of theirs. Anyway, so I leaned forward to them. I was like, guys, it's either overtime or you're winning. This is either going to be the most incredible ending ever, or we get 5 more minutes, and I'm happy with both of those, But they knew that I was going to win some money. Again, not gambling, just a registration fee that I paid to participate with my friends. But they knew I was going to win some money if Carolina won. But we just wanted to see, what we end up seeing. So they inbound that ball, and I remember. So I don't know if you guys caught this on TV or not, but the big guy, I forget how to pronounce his name, Ochobu or Okichobu, or I'm butchering it, I know. But the big guy for Villanova, I watched him mop the floor. I watched him sweeping it. And I don't know if that was on TV or not. I don't know if it was still on commercial break or what was happening there, or if the camera was elsewhere. But I pointed it out to everybody around me. I was like, look at him. He's doing all the, he's the one mopping up his own sweat spot from where he fell. And if you listen to the post-game interview, he did that because he knew that's where Archie was going to be. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. They all call him Ryan Archie or Archie, so that he knew that's where Archie was going to be coming up the court, and that he was going to have to set a screen, and he didn't want anybody to slip. He's like, I did not want myself to slip or Archie to slip, and so I wanted to make certain I knew where I had fallen, and I wanted to make certain that it was completely dry. And I watched him do that live, and I thought to myself that, I actually didn't think that it had any real significance. I just thought it was him making sure that the spot was dry for the last second, attempt to win. So anyway, they inbound the ball, and everyone's talking about, like, why on earth why did Carolina not press? Even Rick Riley, supposed to be a sports guy, he's like, why did they not press? Well, what do you mean, why did they not press? They didn't press because there's only 4.7 seconds left. It's a tie game. You're in the bonus, and the entire length of the court is on your side. I mean, the chances of Villanova doing what they did were so slim that I thought Carolina played it great, with the exception of, I do think that once the ball was inbounded, they should have had. They basically just failed to execute on getting one guy to kind of slow Archie down, because he caught the ball, turned, and he was in a dead sprint up court with no one impeding his progress there. Like he wasn't really even slowed down. If he had been forced to even cross over once, the clock expires before that shot gets off, he probably would have ended up jacking up the shot himself. But credit to him. I mean, the fact that he had the presence of mind to dish that ball off to the trailing Jenkins, that looked like a drawn-up play. When it happened, I thought that was the most beautifully executed play I've ever seen in my entire life. That was, in that moment, for that to be in the less than 5 seconds, they have to go the entire length of the court. There was no prayer from beyond half court. There was no lucky bank shot. There was no, even the Phi Slamma Jamma loss against NC State, where Wittenberg and Charles, Wittenberg chucks up the air ball and Charles catches it and dunks it before the clock expires. And Olajuwon, sitting right there, could have grabbed it himself, but thought he would get called for goaltending, so he just let it go. I mean, obviously that's an amazing ending. That's the only other buzzer beater in championship history, but there's an element of luck involved with that. With this, there was no luck. This was a very smart senior point guard heading down court as quickly as he could, and apparently the play was for him to make a decision, which is even more impressive on his part. Most guys in that situation are jacking that shot up on their own. They are not passing the ball. Most of them are going to jack it up early too, to where like the ball is going to hit the rim and then the buzzer's going to sound type of thing, because they're just going to be nervous, they're going to be anxious, and they're just going to want to, do it. But not Ryan. I really should learn how to pronounce his name, but we're just going to go with Arch. But not Arch. He drives all the way down and has the presence of mind to dish to Jenkins, who's trailing and apparently shouting for the ball. Dishes to Jenkins, continues to run underneath Jenkins, in front of Jenkins, which allowed for that little bit of separation to stay in place that was needed between the Tar Heel defense and Jenkins to get the clean shot off. And it was a deep three, but it was very much an in-rhythm, shoulder square to the basket, feet set, in-rhythm shot, and he drilled it. It was pure pandemonium. I mean, that stadium, between the Marcus Page shot and then this shot to win it, the stadium was just like ready to explode with emotion. The Marcus Page shot, goes in seconds earlier, and they gave everybody these little seat cushions, on the lower bowl, and the Carolina fans started chucking theirs all over. I actually videoed it and put it on my Twitter if you want to check it out. It's at Sean Bingham, SeanBingham. Follow me on Twitter, guys. I appreciate it. I'm always talking sports there, so love to banter back and forth with you. So it starts raining seat cushions in the stadium. They were being thrown everywhere. It was such a cool thing. And so it's just pure pandemonium. And then the anxiety that was on Villanova's part and the jubilation that was on North Carolina's part completely just reversed and switched. It was like a 180 was flipped on both sides. the second that Jenkins hit that shot. And the whole stadium, myself included, I mean, I wanted North Carolina to win, and I couldn't help but cheer when Jenkins hit that shot. I couldn't help but just think, I just witnessed the coolest championship ending ever. And it's going to be hard to ever top that. I mean, maybe if the one goes into like triple overtime and then there's a buzzer beater or something like that. But to have that Marcus Page circus shot tie it up, only to be bettered seconds later by a Jenkins 3 to win it, that you can't write an ending like that. To be North Carolina down 10 and they come storming back in a matter of like 93 seconds. Well, 2 minutes and 93 seconds. Page scored 8 points in 93 seconds. It's such an amazing ending, and truly the best championship game I think has ever been played. I think it was one of the best even before that last 4.7 seconds with the 2 amazing 3-pointers. But when you add those in, it's got to be the best ever. And that's the most clutch shot that's ever been hit in the history of the NCAA tournament. I mean, there's plenty of clutch shots. Christian Laettner's one is the one that we always talk about, where they're playing against Kentucky in the Elite Eight and they inbound the ball. I think it's Grant Hill throws the ball pretty much the length of the court, and Laettner's standing on the foul line. How on earth he caught that ball is beyond me. That's a different scenario where the defense probably should have been able to like bat something down, but they just didn't want the ball to go over their heads. So Laettner catches the ball, does his little fake, and then turn around and drills it to win the game. But that was in the Elite Eight, that was in the Elite Eight. This is in the championship game, This is the championship game where this is it. Everything is on the line. You're either the champion right now, or in this case, they would have had overtime, which made it, in my opinion, even cooler. And he drills it. I mean, that shot will live forever. Jenkins will forever be the guy that's just clutch, the clutch NCAA March Madness shooter. So, best championship game ever, no question about it. And they needed that because the Final Four semifinal games were not that great. But to have it end that way was awesome. And to be there and experience it live is something I'll never forget. Such an amazing experience. I stayed for the whole thing. Afterwards, they do the one shining moment there in the stadium, and they cut down the nets and they do the most outstanding player, all that stuff, and it was really, really cool. Really, really cool. So that's my Final Four experience, all the way from the scalper issues to the to the unbelievable championship game. But a cool topic I want to touch on that happened during the same weekend, during the same few days stretch, was Scottie Pippen's bold statement, who, by the way, like I mentioned, was sitting just literally maybe 10, 12 seats from me. He was 2 rows in front of me and maybe 10 seats to my right, so that was kind of cool. And then Jordan was, maybe 10, 12 seats to Scottie's right, but another, like I said, about 25, 30 rows lower. So, and Jordan had bodyguards around him, and Pippen and other people, were just kind of like regular people, like the rest of us, just had to walk in and out their regular way. But Jordan had Ahmad Rashad to his right, a bodyguard to his left, and they had a separate entrance down underneath, and his bodyguard was, fending off a ton of people trying to take pictures. But then Jordan did allow other people to take pictures. I'm not sure how he determined how to do that, but Jordan is like royalty. He's on a different level of famous. It's pretty incredible to watch. But anyway, lest I digress. So Scottie Pippen says, that he thinks that the Bulls, the 96 Bulls, would sweep this 2016 Warriors team in a 7-game series. So that's something that Ron Harper, which a lot of people don't remember, but Ron Harper actually first said that back in November. And, and then Steve Kerr was interviewed, because Steve Kerr, of course, was a pretty important role player on that Bulls team and is obviously the head coach of the Warriors this year. So he's the only one involved with both teams. So Pippen is asked that question, and he, just says Bulls and 4. Bulls and 4. Again, YouTube it, Google it, Twitter it, whatever. But Pippen says Bulls and 4. And obviously that's going to cause a huge commotion. And at the time, it looked like the Warriors were definitely going to break the record. Well, since then they lost to the Timberwolves, and now they have to play the Spurs twice, once of which is tonight, by the way. They play the Spurs twice, the Grizzlies twice, and there's no margin for error. If they want to beat the record, they have to win out. So in my opinion, if Pop doesn't just lay down and let them win because he's resting his guys for the playoff run, which he's very notorious for doing, then I think the Warriors only have have their best shot or their best hope is to just tie the Bulls record of 1996, where they won 72 games. I don't see any scenario if the Grizzlies and Spurs are both playing their hardest and playing their stars. I don't see any scenario in which the Warriors go 4-0. I really just don't, especially with two of those games being on the road, one of them being on the second night of a back-to-back on the road against quality teams trying their hardest. The Spurs being a team that I just don't see that happening. But if Pop says, hey, you know what, guys, the 2 seeds where we're at, we're not going to get higher, which is pretty much the case. I don't see any scenario either in which the Warriors give up the 1 seed in the West. So I could see Pop saying, you know what, we're not getting any higher. There's no way we're getting that 1 seed. Let's rest. Our guys are 40 years old. Duncan is, I don't know how old Duncan is. He's probably like 57 now. Just kidding. I think he's 39. But Duncan just won his 1,000th game as a Spur with Popovich as his coach, which is the most all-time with one coach. Not the most all-time in general. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Robert Parrish are ahead of him, but it is the most for any player-coach combination. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, so I don't see a scenario in which the Warriors are able to beat that record if Popovich and the Spurs are playing their best 2 of these next 2 games they play against each other. I think the Spurs get at least one of those 2. And the Grizzlies could potentially as well because they're trying to secure, playoff position as well. But anyway, so Pippen says that, and it's just like, obviously it causes this huge commotion. Harper already said it. Kerr, jokingly talked about it from, I think, like the hospital or his recovery area when he had his back surgery back in November. And at the time, the Warriors were like 14-0 or 15-0. And they were already being compared to that Bulls team. And obviously he didn't make any serious comments about it, but I want to do an entire podcast about this. So I'm going to keep this brief, to the next couple of minutes here is all. And then I want to really dive in deeper after we see how the season unfolds for these last 4 games for the Warriors. But I've said it a couple of times months ago. I think that the Bulls would sweep them as well. I really do. I'm going to dive deeper into it and see if maybe I could give the Warriors a game. But I look at Scottie Pippen, and Pippen, people that really are students of the game, people that have followed the game, especially those that are my age or older, that witnessed the 90s in person and remember it. Pippen was not just some, Robin to Jordan's Batman. Pippen's one of the greatest defenders the league has ever seen, ever. Pippen could guard 1 through 4 with no problem, even 1 through 5 sometimes. He's 6'7" with like a 7-foot wingspan. He has the longest arms you've ever seen, long legs. He can move laterally faster than anyone you've ever seen. And he just disrupts everything you try to do offensively. And so I just see him guarding Steph Curry, and I think he'd give him fits. I really, really do. Steph Curry's the man, and he's the best ball handler in the league. Maybe Kyrie Irving's got him beat there, but I'd probably give it to Steph because his ball handling is so unique. So I think Steph's going to break free, and he gets his shot off so incredibly quickly that I think Steph's still going to get his. Probably one of the bold statements Pippen made was that he could hold Steph under 20 points. I think he could for at least a few of the games. I think we've seen people do that. I mean, last year in the finals, Curry played really well, but it was Iguodala who got the MVP. So Curry wasn't the same Curry during the finals, at least. But I think that Pippen is one of the best defenders the league has ever seen, if not the best. He was so versatile and so quick and so long. And length is crucial in the game of basketball on defense. It is absolutely crucial. And when you have the athleticism of a 6'7" Pippen with the wingspan of a guy that's they're a rim protector guy in the middle, a 7-footer, that's a really, really tough guy to beat offensively. And Pippen prided himself on being the stopper for the Bulls. Jordan is one of the best defenders of all time. And I'm telling you right now, if Jordan wants to put the lockdown on Klay Thompson's not even getting a shot off. Klay Thompson might not even touch the ball if Jordan doesn't want him to. That's how good of a defender Jordan was compared to Klay's offensive abilities. So I'm not trying to knock the Warriors. I think they're a phenomenal team. I don't even think they're a lock to win this championship. The 96 Bulls, nobody even questioned who was winning that championship. It wasn't even a question. They were actually up 3-0 on the Sonics in the finals before they somehow laid an egg and lost 2 and then came back and won it in 6. But they were up 3-0 and ended up winning the series in 6. 72-10, steamrolled through the playoffs. They swept the first round, and then I think they dropped a game and then dropped maybe another game and then dropped 2 in the finals. But I mean, they just, to me, like, that team is the greatest team of all time still. But let's see how these final 4 games go. Maybe the Warriors surprise us and they go 73-9 and then they win the championship, and then it's a real debate, right? But until they do that, it's, even when they do, it's all just hypothetical, right? I mean, Steve Kerr joked about it. Like, none of this can actually happen. So Pippen's in the safest spot possible, right? I mean, nobody's going to say, like, okay, Pippen, like, you're 50. Let's see you. Let's play. Let's get Jordan, get Rodman, and let's see what happens. That's not going to happen because it's impossible. So he has nothing to lose by saying that. He gets into the headlines and he defends his team, and I don't blame him for thinking it. I think the Bulls definitely win that series. I don't know if it's a sweep. Part of me thinks it would be, but then the other part of me thinks realistically, well, the Bulls weren't sweeping most people back then. Why would they sweep this Warriors team? And I guess you could argue that the game is softer and blah, blah, blah. But the game also now has better shooters than it ever did back then. I mean, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they're the best 2 shooters in the league now, and they definitely would have been the best 2 shooters in the league back then. The three-point shooting has increased significantly over the last 2 decades since the Bulls were doing their thing. So it's a fantastic argument to go back and forth on, but I'm gonna go ahead and break it down player by player in the next, probably in another episode, just because I want to see how the season plays out. But off the top of my head, it's like, Dennis Rodman was able to stop Karl Malone in 2 consecutive finals appearances, back-to-back finals appearances. He completely took the mailman out of his element, out of his game. Rodman gets into your head. He out-hustles you. He out-rebounds you. He out-physicals you. And he just takes you out of your game. Karl Malone is probably the most skilled power forward the league has ever seen. He's not the best because Duncan owns that title because he's got more MVPs and he's got more rings. He's got 5 rings to Malone's 0. But honestly, if we're like putting them just head to head in their prime, I think Malone's the more talented player. So if Rodman could do that to Malone, you're telling me he's going to have a hard time with Draymond Green? No way. No way. Rodman would take Draymond Green out of his game in a heartbeat. And there's no question that Jordan gets the better of Klay Thompson. It's not even, they're not even in the same league. It really just, and then it's Pippen and Curry. It's like, there's no way that Curry is going to defend Pippen because he just get posted up and scored on all night long. So they probably end up putting a Harrison Barnes or an Iguodala. Here I am breaking it all down when I said I was going to wait. They're probably going to put a Harrison Barnes and Iguodala on Pippen, but Pippen will guard Curry, and then you just see what happens. So Luke Longley and Andrew Bogut, they're pretty much the same guy. In fact, they're both 7-footers from Australia that are just kind of important role players and nothing more on the team. So that's a wash. Kukoc and Iguodala and Barnes and Harper and those guys, those are all pretty much a wash. And then you got Kerr coming off the bench for the Bulls team, even though he's coaching the Warriors team, right? So it's going to be a busy night for him, being on the bench for the Warriors, but then on the court for the Bulls. But he was their best 3-point shooter, and obviously he's not as good of a 3-point shooter as either Klay or Curry is. But the game was different back then. 3-point shooting wasn't nearly the focus that it is now. But anyway, we'll break it down. I think it's a fun argument, even though it's a complete hypothetical that can never actually be figured out. To me, it's like extremely fun to debate because it kind of just shows how closely people followed back then and where their loyalties lie and what they value in the game of basketball. Are they valuing just this amazing 3-point shooting of Steph Curry, or is it the overall dominance of a guy like Michael Jordan who dominated both ends of the court and willed his team to win? And how do you ever bet against Michael Jordan? That's the thing. Is anybody really going to bet against Michael Jordan? The guy went 6 for 6 in the finals, retired on top. None of this Kobe farewell tour stuff where he's like a shell of a man as he's retiring. And he did come back to the Wizards, for that season and a half. But even then, he averaged over 20 points a game and improved the team. Kobe is shooting. He has the worst field goal percentage in the entire league right now. Worst 3-point field goal percentage as well. He's a shell of himself, and his team is like the laughingstock of the NBA. They've won 16 games. They're definitely going to break the franchise record for worst season ever. And he's just kind of going on this farewell tour, waving goodbye to fans and taking pictures and hugging players, and it's kind of a joke. Kobe, I got nothing but respect for how good of a player he is and was, but the whole season is just kind of a joke for the Lakers. It's too bad. But I don't really love the Lakers anyway, so I'm fine with it. But, Jordan retired as like the best of the best of the best and stayed that way. And you'd be crazy to bet against Michael Jordan. I get that Steph Curry is amazing, but he's been amazing for like 3 seasons. Let's see him do it for another decade before we crown him, this fantastic all-time great. Let's see him do it for at least another 5 years, before we do that. Let's see him get 3 more championships. Once he gets to that 4 mark, let's see, And so you'd be crazy to bet against Michael Jordan. But anyway, that's all the time we have for today. But guys, I want to ask you to please subscribe to the podcast. It helps out a lot. We're trying to grow this thing. It's a ton of fun for me, and really appreciate the support of all the listeners. So spread the word to your friends and stuff, and give us feedback. Check out the blog or the website, stbsportstake.com. That's it for the show. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out stbsportstake.com. Simply the best in sports.
'Cause we are